Hi everyone, my name is Jiamei Chen and my partner is Kiran Wesby, and we will be talking about different philosophical perspectives on corporal punishment. What do you think about when you hear corporal punishment? Personally, living in the Caribbean, I know that corporal punishment is not rare in households. It is sometimes a means of disciplining children when they have done something wrong. So I think some of you guys may recall running away from the belt, the shoe, or just about anything that could be used to discipline you in the household when you are misbehaving or when your behavior needs correcting. What is corporal punishment? Corporal punishment is derived from the Latin word meaning body, and although I gave you an example about corporal punishment being used to discipline children, it is not only limited to children, it can be used on adults as well. And flogging was a very popular example of corporal punishment in the past. Jesus himself was flogged before he was crucified, and in the Middle Ages in England it was very popular to flog as a consequence for committing crimes, and it was not abolished in the British Army until late 1800s. Now that we have spoken about corporal punishment in the past, how does it fare in a modern environment? As some of you may recall, in school we used to get hit on the hand with a ruler. Maybe we have gotten a question wrong, or maybe we were misbehaving by talking out of turn, or whatever the case it may be. It used to be in a classroom setting, and I say used to because it is now abolished in 63 countries presently. England not being one of them, it is still relevant and prevalent in countries like England. Now that you have a background on corporal punishment, how do you think our well-known philosophers view corporal punishment? Do you think that corporal punishment is ethical? That is what we are going to cover today. First up, we have Immanuel Kant, founder of Kantian ethics, and Immanuel Kant believed that humans are inherently good. We have no ill will naturally in us to commit crimes or anything of the sort, and the will to actually want to do these commendable acts actually perpetuates the execution of them. And Immanuel Kant's theory circles around one recurring fundamental known as the categorical imperative. The categorical imperative, according to Kant, can be conceptualized in a dozen of ways, but we will only be talking about two. And one would be, can this action be applied to everyone at the same time? And the second one being, is the humanity of the person that you are using considered? So according to Kant, once the action fits the ideal perspective of these two questions, then it is considered moral. According to Kant, a categorical imperative, however, is one that expresses what ought to be done because it is the right thing to do. So for Kant, giving a criminal what he deserves as a punishment would be something moral because we are only giving him what he deserves and not for any other ulterior motives to make anyone else happy. And if we punish them in order to promote happiness, then we are violating the categorical imperative by treating them as a mere means to an end. Kant's view would mean that the punishment should be to the same degree as the crime, and it should be with the intention of punishing the one committing the crime and not for any other ulterior motive. It tells us that we ought to treat others as end, never merely as means. By punishing a criminal, we are respecting his ends because we are treating him like the way he thinks people ought to be treated. Thus, we are not punishing him for our own benefit nor his benefit because it is in accordance with the principles that he has endorsed through his actions. We are going to end the Kantian approach to corporal punishment with a quote by Kant: "Man must be disciplined, for he is by nature raw and wild." So Kant would be for corporal punishment. Ethical egoism. What is ethical egoism? Philosophical egoism is the ideology that people can only think about themselves and always have their own best interests at heart, whereas ethical egoism is saying that we should be able to do that, like we ought to think about ourselves and have our own interests at heart at all times. With that being said, by this theory, ethical egoism, it looks at the motivation as the sole determining factor for morality. In ethical egoism, an act is moral if the motivation is for one's own self. The individual who commits the crime does so out of self-interest, and it merits corporal punishment, even though that may be the case. I believe that ethical egoism would say that since one person can act out of self-interest and commit disorderly conducts or crimes or offenses, then equally corporal punishment should be an applicable response to their action that they have committed.
Okay, so before we get into Aristotle, I have a couple definitions that would help with the process. So the first definition is conceptualization, which is the action of forming any ideas or concepts. The second definition is capital punishment, which is when a person is sentenced to death after they've been convicted of their crime. Now, Aristotle was a Greek philosopher who was alive during the classical period in ancient Greece. He followed in the footsteps of his teacher Plato and the philosopher Socrates and believed that anything human beings did would be in the pursuit of pure happiness. Now, the happiness that Aristotle spoke about is not to be confused with any emotion that we might consider happiness now. Happiness Aristotle spoke about is the happiness of living one's life to the fullest and being happy with who one is. According to Aristotle, man is the rational animal. Aristotle believes that it is man's ability to engage in high-level conceptualization which sets man apart from any other animal. This is basically saying that we are able to make rational or hard decisions which would impact our lives in our pursuit of happiness if we need to. Aristotle, however, believed that there are to be balances in all decisions that we make, and we shouldn't go to either of the two extremes, which would be a deficit or an extreme. So he compiled a list of virtues to help us. Now, these virtues help distinguish between the deficit and the mean and the excess of a certain trait. When thinking about Aristotle's virtues as a person, you would ask yourself, who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to become? With this question, you consider your next moves according to the person you would like to be to ensure that you are living your best life in regards to what you want to do. Now, in regards to corporal punishment, Aristotle's views would agree with this based on the fact that he believes that somebody who has done something wrong should be able to learn from their mistake, and we cannot learn anything without feeling a little pinch or a little pain for it. Now, corporal punishment is considered a viable option in regards to atoning for one's misdemeanors or felonies. Corporal punishment also allows for a person to be punished for something bad, and this is why corporal punishment is often seen in a lot of Caribbean homes, even nowadays. Even though corporal punishment is banned in many countries, it's still seen in homes as a means for parents to teach their children what they should and shouldn't do. A quote from Aristotle would be, "Learning is not child's play. We cannot learn without pain." Now let's get into what utilitarianism has to do with this entire corporal punishment ordeal. So utilitarianism is defined as an action or actions that work in the favor of the good of majority of humankind. Now, the utilitarianistic approach to corporal punishment would be in agreement of the practice due to the fact that it aids in the vast majority and total happiness for all of mankind, being that the person or people who are causing the disruptions would be punished, they would learn from their mistakes, and they would be able to have the ability to discern from what is good and bad and how they would go about their lives now, because they know that this action that they have committed has a consequence. Now, many people would also agree that to see these people being punished would allow them to feel safer or know that these people did not get away unscathed while they did something that would be considered wrong or morally wrong in society. This is the end of our video. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope you have a great morning, evening, day, and night. Thank you.